Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes a todos. La verdad es que me pilla en un día bastante agotada porque ayer inauguramos en la Casa Encendida y ha sido una semana muy intensa, pero no quería dejar de celebrar estos 20 años de Travesía 4. 20 años que además coinciden con el 20 aniversario de la Casa y que realmente creo que ha sido como un recorrido, un camino, ¿no?, que hemos hecho juntas, en el que hemos aprendido, ¿no?, y hemos estado siempre ahí y bueno, no podía faltar, y bueno, sobre todo además en compañía de Alexandre Estrela, un artista que admiro muchísimo, que tuvimos la oportunidad... Ay, sorry, we were supposed to speak English. Okay. I make the small introduction in Spanish and then we switch, okay?
And I'll do the same in Portuguese.
Okay, and then we can do French. Bueno, cuando realmente conocí la obra de Alexandre en ese 2015 en el programa Fisuras en el Reina Sofía, y realmente me voló la cabeza su forma de enfrentarse al arte, al cine, ¿no?, y todas sus reflexiones. Y luego tuvimos la suerte de presentar su trabajo en la exposición Luacao, que para mí es una de las más especiales que hemos hecho en la Casa Encendida, junto a Guzmán y Paiva, que hablábamos ahora, que fue una exposición un poco catártica, en la que luego hubo varias separaciones y cuestiones, pero bueno, creo que una exposición maravillosa. So, well, just to begin, Alexandra, I would like to, maybe we can get into your work later, but I would like to know about your beginnings. No, where did this interest, no, in the materiality of image and its interferences with the perception of the viewer come? Like, do you have like a cinematographic background?
No, I'm a painter. Actually, I'm really a painter. So, like today, like it was really incredible. Also, like, you know, because there's a core of painting in Travesia's artists, and one thing is to see like the work in catalogs and everything, but the other is also to hear about, you know, the expertise that most of the artists have in the gallery. Also very eclectic, so it was really interesting moment was to be an artist in this group, and for the first time like to be listening like in first hand what they're thinking. So, but Matt, to answer you, I'm formerly a painter. And but that's started like to have like an interesting time, and time based. So like how could I imprint time in painting? And for me that was a bit frustrating in the beginning, and this is kind of an interesting thing because also like it might be also this thing of the isolation and being speaking English here, and this thing of the border that in a way like in the late 80s. Beginning of 90s, beginning Lisbon was quite isolated, and so I had the chance when I started working with video and moving image. I had the pleasure of thinking I was a pioneer. Me and my friends. No one will ever take that from me. So I was like, me and my friends, we were really doing stuff that we thought no one had ever done, and so this is.
And what does
thank
this
God.
stuff was about?
And so that's the starting point was this naive that you have like first camcorders with the family, like in your family, start doing stuff that wasn't really like cinema because we were not, and I was really lucky also to be like with friends that were also doing this quite interesting things. Mm. And it still continues. So it's like a tight community.
Mm. So thank you very much for the invitation. I wasn't supposed to be here in the middle. It's just that Alicia asked me to be here. So it's interesting to start with this fact that you're actually your background is as a painter, Because I think in a way, of course, we're gonna talk a lot about time, because I think time is pretty like crucial in your practice, in your pieces. But what I was thinking now is how some of the problems that you need to deal with when you're a painter, they are there in your work as someone who's dealing with, because all the time you're dealing with the materiality of the image. So this idea of the materiality, for me, I think it's one of the key things in your production. And at the same time, there's also this tension between the bidimensional and the three-dimensional. How, in a way, you're dealing with the bidimensional, but you're always thinking about like the spaces, the surfaces, such as I was telling Alexandre that I was rereading some of his interviews, and I was laughing by myself. Because for me, in a way, you were telling us about this beginning in which you were experimenting with your friends, and I see you, and I hope you take it as a compliment. I see you as a sort of a crazy inventor, because I think all the time you're kind of thinking about the different devices, and when I think about devices, it's not only the camera and the moment of recording something, but especially the projection devices and also the optical devices. So I see you as a sort of a poet of light, of the cone of light, and someone who is kind of all the time thinking about these things. So. Yeah. We're gonna keep on talking about it.
No, I think it's kind of like for me, perception is really important, and how like and all this synesthetic, like how your like senses can be in this like crossing ways and creating like new like this like vacant like areas that in a way creates just like these creative images that suddenly they become concrete and on how like ideas suddenly are attracted and magnetized by this proto images and the more ideas you have and the more they have, like the more they become concrete, and then suddenly we go into matter, and I think that's one of the things that I like, just to like to, and there is this thing that I'm kind of like really reacting, and it's kind of a reactionary of myself, like because like there is also depending on cultural things, like in Portugal, I don't know how it was here, artists that were working in this field were called plastic artists, and this idea of plasticity, and I think nowadays we discuss like kind of like more. Like it's the idea of like being a visual artist becoming more like defining what I do, and for me it's not something that important. It doesn't really represent what I like, the plasticity of things, and that this resonance might be like you can call it like it can be poetic, but it's like, but I think it's just like something that can evolve in several forms, and so like jumping as like from medium to medium, Anyway.
Yeah, it's like a way of creating some kind of glitch, no? Like, and you work also with the idea of, how do you say, like the. I was thinking in a Spanish word is trampantojo, no? Like this idea of something that.
Yeah, I can see that like my pieces, they're like perceptive traps. And so they're not very nice. No. When they work,
and what do you
sometimes they don't work, and so people don't feel trapped. I kind of become sad, but
no, I really think they work.
But anyway, they're anyway, it's just like traps that somehow put you in a different position. Put you reconsider a lot of things that you get from granted.
Yeah, it's like as all the time you're telling us like what you see, it's not the reality, or it's not as you can understand it in the first sight. So you need to kind of doubt of everything, right?
Yeah. Also, it's very difficult for someone that doesn't know my work. It's just like it's like, but in a way, so I would prefer, like, to have, like, I wish I had a piece here, but there's too much light. But in a way, to have a piece that would function as an intermediary, so that we could actually project our ideas onto it. Because if not, it can be like kind of like abstraction. But I like, it's like things that we talked today, this intersection between memory, matter, and perception. And so it creates there's something that really, so today someone was talking about Bergson. I kind of like, I'm keen on Bergson's ideas, or like there's a lot of things, or Ezra Pound was like this idea of like the images at a radiant nod where ideas fall. This is not my idea. I was quoting Ezra Pound, and so it's just.
And it's also interesting, like the way you always show, like the technology behind, no? Like there's also like this idea of.
I kind of try to minimize it, because in the beginning I was a fetishist because I didn't have access to it. So the idea of having a camera was more to film the camera than actually to have it, So it's just like, I was like, to understand like the physicality or the ergonomy of the the design of the camera, and also like what's like the attraction of it, this kind of like monolithic like black box, that has like and so I was really attracted by this, and this idea of imprinting time on that object too. So the idea of tautology and a conceptual approach to it was also very important for me. So in the beginning, I was really keen on, like, I was really interested in the materialism, like in a conceptual approach to things. And then, like, lately, I'm becoming more involved into the experience of the image itself, and get into and so from painting is becoming more important again, because I don't need like things to be as dry, or I don't need to be to have like this shield of dryness, to continue doing things.
I think you touch in a few things that are, for example, the idea of memory. Before we were discussing an exhibition that Alexandre did in Serralves like a few years ago, and there was this idea of doing like half of the show, the projectors, they would be turned on, and half of the show, the projectors will be turned off. So there's this, and reading you said something about the idea of the memory of this device and also the memory of the images. So you talked about, for example, the idea of a crystallized image. I thought this was super beautiful. Like when the projector is like turned off, it's as if the image that is there, that it's inside of this device, is as if it was leaping. But when in the moment in which you turn on the projector, then you have like a sort of a fluid of liquids, of image, and as if the image was something that it has this kind of a liquidity, this idea of this liquidity. So, and then you said, the idea is that the moment that we turn off the projector, then we need to count on the memory of the people who saw it to tell the others what those images were about. So this idea of also a sort of a translation, it's beautiful, right? Like the translation of an image into something that it's oral, and then I wanted you to...
Yeah, like in that show, there was two things. One is like there were too many pieces in the show, so if they were all like playing at the same time, there was and this happened also at the Casa Encendida. So the idea of like time sharing a space, so some would play, so it's just like create a script. So this is gonna play, it's just like this is gonna play, then this and that. And then I thought like what would be really interesting, and also because I was really like dealing with a perception and the idea of like projecting memories, and I thought that as most of the screens were sculptural, I was trying to, and I think it was effective. I didn't try, I made it. So the idea was, I was training the viewer to actually, there's a term for it. Is more accurate. I was conditioning the viewer to see to see a sculpture, to see an object with an image, knowing that the next day, if this person would come and see the image, and if the projector was turned off, you would project your memory on that specific object, because it was very easy. It would be very easy to, and if I would go to the toilets, my presence would still be here for a while, And so the idea was that, but then also it was a bit, it was something that I was really interested, and it's with the frustration of a failure in video, that how the machines fail, and how when you go to a show like anywhere, and when you see most of the work is when you see a machine that is not working, there's this frustration, and this happened to me, and I got into this thing that I would love more these moments than the actual shows. So to go and see that, so because you project a lot of ideas onto this, what was here, on all this, and also started enjoying these moments in my own work. So it's sort of this sort of sadistic thing in it, And so the idea was shutting off half of the show. So on even days I would show half, odd days I would show the other. It was a mechanism. I created this I imbalanced the show, and also forced the viewer to go twice to the same show. That was a problem for the institution too. So I had to invent a new ticket, and so this became and there was a lot of complaints of they couldn't do it, and there was a lot.
But I think it's amazing the fact that not only in this show but in others, you're kind of testing the boundaries of the institution and creating tension.
But I don't do it on purpose. I know it's something that erupts naturally. It's not on.
Yeah.
No, it's not part of my.
Yeah, I remember in Luacao, there was this idea of the projectionist, that it was some a part of the exhibition, that was going to putting on and off all the installations. And finally, this was like this in Sedos Boys, and I think even in Munich.
Yeah,
but in La Casa Encendida, at the end, we decided to really automatize all the, because
it was kind of beautiful. Because I don't know, this show was like an intersection of 20 years of work of mine and this, and we never thought about crossing our works. I work with video, they were working on analog, and some pieces, we love it like each other's work, but it was never a plan. But we have this friend that is actually a pirate in common that forced us more or less to go into this adventure. And so this was this. So it was really sharing what was more, what was really personal. And so this show toured, started ZDB it started in Azores Islands, then it went to ZDB, then it went to Kunstverein in Munich, and it ended at Casa Encendida. And each time we were trying, so in the beginning, between us, we were also using methodologies that they also do multi-projections and all that. And so what we did before was we were time sharing the screens, so one or the other. And so each screen had both, and then at the end of Casa Encendida, so we had this idea, let's do a back-to-back thing. Mm-hmm. So screen has, because it was already a sign that we were splitting, and we couldn't deal with each other anymore. So we went turning our backs to
literal.
Yeah, but it was. I think it functioned. I don't know. I think it was really interesting.
And talking about adventures, I remember one of the pieces in Luacao that was Viaggio Meglio. It came from a trip with Nacho Checa, the pirate. And normally, like, does your work come from experiments or like
Spanish pirate? Spanish.
Spanish. Spanish pirate, yeah. But do you think that your work sometimes comes from an experiment, or
No,
like there's something?
Nacho had travel. Yeah, I think he has the best. He has the best residency. It's a mobile residency that he goes to, mainly France. He goes and he asks, like, where do you want to travel in the world? The world is, and so he goes with you, and he's like a mobile production. And so he did that. He did that with João Maria and Pedro. He did also with Gabriela Branch. And most of the stuff that they've done, you know, they're like their show was like what they've done. They was shown in Venice, like with Gabriel, it was like he won Locarno. Like it's like really, and one day I knew this would come because we're best friends. I know him. He asked me if I wanted to travel with him, and I said like no, I'm the worst person to travel with. You know, I'm really not a traveling person. I like to be. Let alone, you know, and I don't want to carry stuff because my idea was like I knew that the work of João and Pedro was very physical, and they carried a lot. So they brought to Portugal like I don't know how they smuggled like whale bones and all this stuff. And my idea that I had, like just like walking miles with a bone on of a whale on my back was something that was really haunting me. So I said like I don't want to do it, but he convinced me. Slowly, because so we did first experiment in Prague, and then we went to Azores, and then we went to Indonesia, and so slowly the traveling became a practice, and it was kind of interesting. Yeah, it was really, and it's like again like. Nacho saying like we have to go to, like where do you want to go, where do you want to go, where do you want to go every week.
And besides traveling, would you say that your pieces come from like experimenting like from your ideas or
my thing was like I said like I don't want to have like the pressure of doing something direct like right at the moment, and I told so indiferido, I don't know like it's indiferido, I don't know how do you, indifferent, it's like it's not so like the pieces for me they take like some years, so I didn't want to take like the pressure. I would like as a you know like a philosophical trip, like I would go and take some samples, and then they would wait 3 years in my memory or whatever, and then I'll start working. And with Nacho, because he was and João Pedro are the opposites. It's very present, so they take things and they do like you know like they have like this urgency, and so with me, actually I only did one piece for his show, but then what you saw at Reina Sofía was already something that you know and that's a bit frustrating for Nacho, that 3 years after. Like things starts to yeah.
That was the same question that I was asking myself. Since like your work starts before like turning on the camera, or maybe even after. So this idea of like past, present, and future, it's always like present. And so how is your process? How do you work with these different kinds of devices? Because I think if for the ones who haven't seen the work of Alexandre, I think it's really important to think that the projector is as important as the screen or the surface of the architecture in which he's projecting the images. So
yeah, I think it's can you rephrase it?
I think it's a really yeah. I was even thinking about when does it start? Because if it doesn't start when you turn on the camera, when it starts on the engineering of the camera, in the engineering of the projector.
No, it's not that technical. It starts with an image.
Okay.
Or something.
And which kind of image?
I don't know.
For example.
Like at the like in Mexico, like in this like I was really interested in like in the archaeology museum, like where in the absences of like the stands for sculptures, the absence of artifacts, and I did a piece that actually is about throat singing, but it was an image that's like stayed for a while, and I don't know. It's just like it starts with an image, and then it just goes somewhere else always, and that's unpredictable where it goes. But it's there's this uncanniness of the image that really makes me have it in my. But before I used to have a lot. Now only work with like there's only few images that are in my memory and that I think I can work with. So like when you're talking about camera, I barely use camera anymore, and
maybe you come back to painting.
No, that's what I want to do. I want to dry it. I really want to dry it time in my work, and I've been trying hard to do it. I did like recently. I did an animation. I'm working on like the basic, like the principles, like the basics of animation, and so I'm using like drawing as a bone structure for like narratives of elements. Like it's a bit difficult to explain, but it's just like it's based on like when I'm saying animation, it's like really comics, like Disney's like and I'm really interested like when the animation is not working, you get it's like the bones stay, so it's like the drawing stays, you know, it's just a structure, but the animation on another level is like highly complex. I'm working with with a programmer, using a lot of like rules and applying like behavioralistic like theories on it, and it's just like really it's like creating
and it's
ecosystems.
Going to be animation in which kind of support?
Yeah,
I
project on silk screens, but I did a show at in Mexico at Travessia Mexico City on this, and it's so. But my idea is, like in the beginning, like you're creating these ecosystems that have like they have their own lives, they have like their own like process, and sometimes it's an open system. It goes beyond my capacity of dealing with it. I really don't know what's going on there, but it behaves, and then when it dies, it's just like seeing like a dying ecosystem. And what you have there, it's just like what triggered it, but also it's like what's stayed after all the forensic, and all the but highly rooted in modernism in a way. Yeah.
We were also discussing this morning, Lucia and myself, that besides your work and your practice as an artist, you also have like an important practice as a sort of a film programmer. So
yeah.
Actually, we would have loved. I don't know if it continues. Your like Oporto
the program
sessions.
of Oporto.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oporto died.
Really?
We missed it.
It was because it was rooted on the merchant sailors.
The space was amazing.
Space.
Maybe you could tell us a bit about the space and about the programs that you used to.
It used to be a merchant sailors, like the union of the merchant sailors in Lisbon, and so like a stronghold for resistance. And the entire space was painted by an anarchist, like one of the guys from the union, that as a payment for hiding because he was hiding from he was hidden for like he was hiding from the dictatorship police, and so as a payment he painted the entire space. It's a salon with murals of the boats that the union used to control, some mythological figures and all this. And so like when I started doing like this program, because this was my studio, it was such an incredible place. I said every 2 months I would open it to show like in a way like things that I really liked. Mainly
You always did the program yourself?
in the beginning, and I was also working sharing the studio with a graphic designer. And so what I was really what we were doing was also training, experimenting, not really doing everything. So we would do for each film, we'd only present one film. So in a way, to hide away from, to just to put ourselves away from this thing of of the internet, or also the massive retrospectives of artists. So the idea was just I want to concentrate just on one single image, one single film, and we would show it in original format. And we started also do really working on with designing posters and flyers and writing texts. And so this is so this was 16 years of this. Then on the 12th year, another person came in, and Annabelle is a graphic designer, and she is ultra intense. And she also we started not only sharing, having this improvisation on graphic, because usually it was we had 3 days to do a poster. It was really but also in the programming. And so now I lost the space. Lisbon changed a lot, and so I got another space that actually is we call it Faro. Yeah, and we had the first experience with it a year ago, but now this is an old cinema, so it's we are reacting to it in another way. In the other was anachronism. You're showing really highly conceptual, really hardcore pieces in in a place from the 30s. Actually, it could be like this, but with paintings of boats, and it's very similar. And the new place is a cinema from a church that was abandoned for 50 years. I got it. I was it's unbelievable. But our idea there is not to fight the idea of cinema, but the idea of expanding the program to more. We were doing that before because we're doing exhibitions mainly, but what we want to do now is just doing creating narratives between objects. So this is what we're no matter, and when I say object, it can be a poem, a sound, anything. So
but it's also a program, a regular program.
Yeah, we started we did 2 months. 2 months. Let's stop here. No?
Maybe someone wants to ask something. I don't know. Is there a question?
Come on, one, just one.
Or maybe we can end, and you can tell us what your next projects are. There's a big exhibition at MoMA, no, in November, and
that's for me. It's it takes me 3 years to think about a piece, and 3 more years to talk about it. So in 3 years.
So maybe we have to talk in 3 years.
Maybe in 3 years we need to be here again.
Yeah. It's come.
Okay.
And also, venid a la exposición que tenemos en diciembre, el 15 de diciembre, en Travesía 4 aquí en Madrid, de Alexandre. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.